always been a night owl. There's something about the quiet. It helps me think, unwind, maybe even get a little work done when the world has finally gone to sleep. At least, that's how I used to feel about it. Now I dread the late hours. It was about a year ago, in late October. I was up late as usual, finishing up some paperwork for my job. My apartment is in a pretty safe part of town, small neighborhood, friendly neighbors, the kind of place you don't really think twice about. I had my windows cracked open, just a bit, to let the cool air in, the kind of breeze that makes everything feel a little cozier inside. It must have been around 2 a.m. when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a tree branch or something. I went back to my work, but then I heard it again. Louder this time. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window right next to my desk. I froze. It wasn't windy, and there were no trees close enough to my window to reach it. The tapping was deliberate, like someone was testing to see if I would notice. I looked over, expecting to see a bird, or maybe some animal. But there was nothing. Just the thin curtains, fluttering with the breeze. But then, it came again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, it was slow. Almost rhythmic, like someone was waiting for me to answer. Now, I've always been a rational person. I told myself it was just a weird coincidence. Maybe the pipes or something. Still, I got up and looked out the window, carefully peeling the curtain back. Nothing. The streetlights cast a dim glow over the empty sidewalk outside, and everything was still. But something didn't feel right. You know that sensation when you know someone's watching you. It felt like that, like eyes were on me, but there was no one there. I shook it off, convinced myself I was just tired, and sat back down at my desk. I kept working, but I couldn't shake the unease. Every now and then, I glanced at the window, half expecting something to be standing there, staring in at me. And then, the tapping started again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, it was louder, more urgent. My heart started racing, but I forced myself to look out the window again. I pulled the curtain back, quickly, hoping to catch whatever or whoever was there. Nothing. The street was still empty, and the yard was just as I left it. This time, I noticed something I hadn't before. In the corner of my window, right where the tapping had been, were faint smudges, like someone had pressed their fingers against the glass. 3 distinct smudges. Tap, tap, tap. I started to get a little freaked out at this point. I closed the window, locked it, and pulled the curtains shut. Whatever it was, I wasn't about to give it an audience. I double-checked all my windows and doors, making sure everything was locked, and sat back down, my heart pounding. But then, just as I started to calm down, I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the other side of the room. I turned around slowly, my stomach dropping as I did. I have a second window in my living room, one that faces the back of the apartment, where there's nothing but a narrow alleyway and a tall fence. It was shut, locked, and the curtains were drawn. the tapping was coming from there now. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I crept over to the window, feeling the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The tapping was steady, intense, like someone or something was just waiting for me to respond. I yanked the curtains open and looked out, expecting to see nothing again. But I was wrong. Standing in the alley, just beyond the fence, was a figure. I couldn't make out any details, just the shape of someone, tall. Too tall to be normal. They were standing completely still, their face hidden in the shadows. But the worst part, their hand was raised, slowly tapping against the window with long, thin fingers that shouldn't have been able to reach that high. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call the police. I mean, what was I supposed to say? Someone's tapping on my window? They wouldn't take me seriously. So I did the only thing I could think of. I turned off all the lights, grabbed my phone, and sat in the corner of the room, watching the window from the shadows. The tapping continued, steady and slow, like it knew I was there. Tap, tap, tap. It went on for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was probably only a few minutes. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. I waited, holding my breath, listening for any sign of movement outside. Nothing. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to peek out the window again. Figure was gone. I didn't sleep that night, or the next night. In fact, haven't slept well since. I don't leave my windows open anymore. Not even a crack. I don't stay up late either. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I swear I can still hear it. Tap, tap, tap.